Bom dia. Um, John Bell speaking here from the European Commission, working on the All Atlantic Ocean Research Alliance, and delighted to have an opportunity to speak with you today about the importance of connecting up the work that we do together from pole to pole across the Atlantic in getting a first understanding of the needs of our ocean and how we can actually work through research, innovation, cooperation around the shores and cultures and parts of the ocean to find a better future for it. We started our Atlantic Ocean Research Cooperation nearly a decade ago in 2013 with the signing of the Galway Statement. That signing in Galway was a new beginning for an era of what you can call blue enlightenment, where the ocean and the systems around the ocean move to the centre of our understanding as to what are the driving factors in our planet and the stressors that it's dealing with and what their consequences can be for decision makers, citizens, economies and societies around our ocean. The understanding, in effect, that the ocean are the unacknowledged regulators of our planet, of our lives, and that the knowledge that we have of the ocean from pole to pole is inadequate to the circumstances that we find ourselves in as we see most of our assumptions changing and shifting in this decade of decision. Even knowing where our marine protected areas are or will be, understanding the dynamics of what's happening in our polar regions and how they are connected to the consequences of global warming, of ecosystems, and so forth. We need to understand the world that is informed and driven and programmed by our blue heart, our blue identity. So we need the alliance to start on the basis that it started off on so promisingly, which is an alliance of scientists, to become an alliance of research and innovation communities, of generations, of different kinds of actors and thinkers and explorers and investigators and analysts and data inquirers and so forth. We need to build a new community that's fit for purpose to work with and understand the ocean as it is there, and we needed to see this community of practice as part of a rich, fertile and unifying force, bringing us together with a common purpose. We're here in this specific session to mark the pole-to-pole dimension of the Alliance, a critical aspect. We've gathered in Washington to sign a declaration to commit to continue to work together for a healthy ocean, from the Arctic to the Antarctic, around the Atlantic Ocean, shore to shore, north-south, east and west, across cultures and tides and weather systems and time zones. And we need to bring the polar dimension to the centre. Over the course of our forum, we will take stock of what we've achieved together until now. And we need to do more to let the world understand the significance of the work that has been done. But most importantly, we will also look at the future to seize the opportunities and address the common challenges facing our Atlantic Ocean and the communities that depend on it in a completely new context. And indeed facing the communities around the Atlantic Ocean that are transformed by the understanding of what is happening in these parts of the Atlantic Ocean, notably in the polar contexts. I'd like to ensure that the polar research community are a central part of this conversation. You're remarkable people, and the work that you do is extraordinary in so many ways. But sometimes we need to be able to listen and understand to the great work that you're doing and to mainstream it and put it into the DNA of our understanding and thinking for all of the other knowledge systems and policy systems and change systems that we have to reprogram in this great decade of decision. I'd like to express my sincere gratitude to all our partner countries who've mobilised to make this session dialogue possible. It's been something we've been working towards for many years. And a very big obrigado on this great day to the Portuguese Embassy for hosting this workshop, and Portugal has shown great support and leadership in bringing together this great community. Previous All-Atlantic Fora have shown that there is life in the All-Atlantic Ocean Research Alliance, a vibrant community from the Antarctica to the Arctic committed to working together. It is now the first time in an All-Atlantic Forum that we gather representatives from so many countries to talk about polar research and how to further our cooperation. We're creating here a space to have new kinds of conversations where we can bring your work, its significance and the necessity, what has to happen next together around the Atlantic. The alliance has proved that it was ready to reinforce multilateral cooperation and continue to build and strengthen the all-Atlantic Ocean community that will deliver on priorities such as the European Green Deal for us, which is the translation of what the European Union is for the next 3 decades, to work towards being a climate neutral continent, working within its biodiversity and natural and planetary boundaries, and with a fair and just transition for the people involved, and supporting the implementation of the Agenda 2030 for Sustainable Development. And here the UN Decade of Ocean Science for Sustainable Development is critical as a mobiliser and as a structuring dynamic for all of us who are working in this particular part of the ocean system. Polar research is now called to join in these collective efforts, is to bring the insight, the perspective, the view of the transition, the understanding of the dynamics, the understanding of the gaps in the dynamics and the needs that follow that into the heart of the conversation, be listened to. At the same time, the Alliance could be the privileged space to reinforce cooperation between European polar researchers and our Atlantic partners, and you have our commitment to work in whatever way to take this cooperation and development forward. The new declaration will be signed tomorrow, really sets a new vision and a new ambition for the Alliance. We're joining forces and working together to advance science, to protect the health and well-being of our citizens, and notably to look after our planetary neighbourhood from pole to pole, coast to coast, east and west in this part of the ocean, and to empower and equip the next generation with the skills to become ocean leaders. This is very important for us, to bring the next generation of ocean leaders forward and to understand and dialogue between the generations what it is that we can do collectively as a community to enable them to step up to meet the ambitions that are now there as the work on the oceans and the work in polar research move to the centre of some of the biggest decisions we've had to make as a civilization. The All-Atlantic Ocean Research and Innovation Alliance also shines as a landmark of successful multilateralism. It can inspire, I hope, others to join and serve as a model of how our joint work can contribute to deliver the transitions that our Atlantic communities need. And of course to contribute to the ongoing work for implementing and delivering, impacting on what we're trying to achieve in this decade of decision as we look at the UN Decade of Ocean Science for Sustainable Development. And I have to say, I am hugely appreciative for the spirit of cooperation, for the willingness to understand each other's systems and each other's policies and each other's constraints. That typifies the kind of spirit of cooperation that we've had here across languages and communities and boundaries since the outset of this alliance, and I am sure that we will continue to work in this way in the future. But we need to move from being simply a research group to being an all-Atlantic Ocean community, comprising all of us who are part of this, who are connected, that has the scientific strength, the habit of cooperation, and the capacity to provide solutions and lead our way to a more sustainable, bluer, climate-ready, durable future. And a place where polar research is firmly anchored and has its place. And this, of course, means that our community has to be attentive to the insights and the voices of our indigenous communities and cultures, where, as I think a recent representative of one of the indigenous communities in Canada spoke about the need to see the world with two eyes, one being scientific and one being that which is embedded in our traditional cultures. So we're here with a new ambition. Research and innovation has a new ambition in this decade of decision. We are no longer spectators, we must be navigators, communicators, cooperators, mobilizers of people who can move from warnings to solutions, who can move the public with them into the changes that are needed and be able to read the environment and what it means in terms of what's going on at our poles and in the great depths of our oceans. So to do this, we need to work together to build on our great cooperation, and with the support of Horizon Europe programme, I can commit you on behalf of the European Commission and our European Union that we will be there every step of the way. I'd like to remind you that the European Union has indeed launched new missions, large-scale research and innovation driven high impact initiatives to try and change and reverse and transform some of the big issues that we're facing, and one is on the aim to restore our oceans and water systems by 2030, focusing on a broad mobilisation across the research and innovation communities, and an attempt to ensure that we can actually deliver large-scale nature restoration, the digital twin of the ocean that we need to understand the systems and the future and the modelling and the prediction and the real-time monitoring, and to address the issues of pollution and the decarbonisation of our sea basins. So there's a lot to work on together. This will have an important convening power, and we hope that as part of this, it's an open offer to involve you in our partnership in working through maybe where there are areas where we can really move things forward in terms of our nature restoration, our marine protected areas, and the other work that we're doing together. It includes an all-Atlantic art lighthouse, which close links to our AORA future work, I hope, and will focus on ecosystems, understanding and restoration. On the 30th of June, we've launched the mission charter for the ocean mission Restore Oceans and Waters by 2030, calling on countries, regions and other partners to join us on this great mission to restore our blue planet by identifying areas of work and activities where the commitments can serve what is being set out here, and to create a mobilisation on behalf of our oceans. So I invite you all to commit to looking at this and looking at the restoration measures that you can bring to this restoration of the Atlantic and the Arctic Ocean, and pledge actions to that end where that's appropriate, and come back and talk to us and see is there a way in which you can do more things more quickly at better scale together. Across the Atlantic Ocean and from pole to pole, we share the same dilemma. We're the first civilization that understands its dilemma and the needs to address it. We share the same history, the same values, different cultures, the same destiny, and you can rely on Europe and the European Union to be committed to continued transatlantic cooperation at its heart, based on scientific evidence and open cooperation, because science is something that builds bridges, not walls, and open to the upholding the values of multilateralism, the needs of communities, which is part of our collective DNA. Molto obrigado, thank you very much, and I look forward to taking this conversation forward in the next few days. And what a great time to be looking at a new Atlantic perspective. Thank you.